SimCoder here, and now on our Uber app, because we have a profile for the driver, we can go ahead and actually implement some interesting things on our app. So in this lesson we'll try to implement the how can I call them, like services that Uber has. So it has UberX, for example, Uber Black, Uber XL, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So let's try to implement that and make the distinction between every single one of those services. So first of all, I'm going to grab our Android project. I'm going to close all of this because we don't need the customer map. Actually, yeah, let's leave the customer map activity. We'll need that. Let's close the driver map because we don't need that, and open the driver settings activity. Driver settings. Here it is. And now let's implement something that I already did on the Tinder project, the Tinder series that we are doing, which is a radio group. And you'll see what it does just in a second. So let me just move the microphone. Okay, so let's do radio group, not radio button, radio group. And basically what it does is allow us to put a bunch of radio buttons and only allow the user to choose one of them, so that we don't have to worry about the back end of that. It takes care of it for us, so it is that much easier. So let's place text equal to, the first one will be UberX because it is the most common one, and let's place an ID as well of the type Uber. You can copy and paste that. UberX. Oh, actually no, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is meant to be the radio button. So the radio group will have the radio buttons inside it. I started mixing up some things. Make sure you correct this. I'm sorry about that. And okay, now you're correct. So give it an ID of radio group. And an orientation horizontal, just to make it smaller, otherwise it would take up almost the entire screen. So place the radio button inside it and make other two copies. And the second one will be Uber Black. You can copy and paste that into the ID. And the last one will be Uber XL. Okay, so as you can see, the buttons are here, and you can only press one of them. If you press, for example, Uber X and then Uber Black, Uber X will be unselected automatically. So yeah, that's exactly what we want. Now let's go into our driver settings activity and take care of the backend for this. So the first thing that we need is a global variable of the type radio group. And I didn't explain to you, but we'll save it just like we did everything else. I have it here because I already ran this code and I know it works. So we'll have a service with the type of service as a string inside it. So it is just as we did with everything else before. And if you haven't checked out my previous lesson, please do. I explain everything there. And okay, so now let's place the find view by ID in here, and radio group equals to radio group find view by ID r.id dot radio group. Same thing as we always do. And now let's go into save user information, and then we'll figure out how we can display the driver's service on the settings activity. So as I've said, we have already done it in the Tinder app, but for those that don't follow that series, I'm going to explain to you. So in order to get the selected radio button, you must have a selected ID, which will be mradio group dot get selected checked radio button ID, exactly. And now we are going to create a radio button, a variable for the radio button with that selected radio button ID. So it isn't the normal way of doing things, but it is normal for radio groups. And okay, so radio button, here is radio button, not radio group. Find view by ID, and you simply paste selected ID, and that's it. We get the button, and now we can get the text. So one thing that I want to do is just a check. So if radio button dot get text is null, which is the same thing as saying that the user hasn't pressed any button, then you return and don't let the user continue. Okay, so let's create another variable in here at top, and it is going to be of the type service. These variables are just if you want to make some checks in the future. So I'm not going to do those checks now, because it is part of the 80% of the time that you have to spend doing the code. It is about perfecting the code, and now I'm just trying to to make a proof of concept. So I don't believe it is necessary to do it now, because I'm not making this app to launch it. I'm just showing you how you can implement this idea of the Uber app. So dot get text to string, and now that this end service will have this text, so Uber XL, Uber Black, or Uber X, and that's exactly what we need. So we can simply copy and paste in here and say service and service, and that's done. We have successfully saved to the database. Now to get it from the database, we need to go inside the get user info. Okay, and we can simply copy and paste this here, and instead of car it is service and service. And now to know which radio button to place it in, we are going to do a switch. A switch statement is basically an if, but looks prettier in these situations. And service. So case this end service is equal to Uber X, then m radio group dot check r dot id dot Uber X and break, and we can copy and paste that and do the same things for Uber Black, and make sure you don't misspell any word, otherwise it won't work. And it is case sensitive as well, don't forget that. So when we do that, it will check the correspondent radio button ID which we have here. So yeah, that's all to do with the driver settings activity. Can go ahead and close that. And now on to the customer map activity. And actually I didn't get the code ready to do the layout, but it doesn't matter, we can force feed it. So now the way I imagine this, I believe it isn't the most efficient nor the best looking one, but it works, it gets the job done. So I don't believe we have to worry about this. And when I say it isn't efficient, efficient and that we don't have to worry about that is because, well, you don't have that many Uber cars available at any time. So let's say if there are 100, even 200 cars available at your area at this moment, that isn't that much, and this code can run fairly quick when it comes to those cases. Now, if you're dealing with 10,000, 100,000, then it may slow down a bit, but it is nothing to worry about. So let's go with it. It is only a proof of concept, as I said it, so nothing to worry about. So now that we have the information in the database, all we have to do is to, when we find a car that's close to us, we must go into the database and check if that car is of the type that we want. Okay, that's it. That's everything we need to do. So the way I imagined it is by doing a add single event listener, and then if that single event listener returns something, then that means that something that's equal to the one that the service that we want, then that means that we can go ahead and implement this code that's in here already. So let's go ahead and implement actually, yeah, we can go ahead and implement the database reference and customer database equals to Firebase database, and this is the same old things that we always do. So get reference dot child, and now we point to the driver's child reference. So child drivers dot child key, and this key is the ID. As you can remember, we have in here the driver file ID, and I'm going to give some space because at the moment we won't need that. The key is the driver's ID. Okay, so that's if you can check my previous lesson where I go over this and I explain it in detail. So now let's do a set how is it, add listener for single event value, exactly, new value event listener, and now we are going to grab everything. No, first we are going to do an if, just to be clear for you guys. You can copy and paste it inside, but you will have to do it again in some time. So now we are going to do an if data snapshot exists, because in the beginning the user may not have registered their service, and so we must check to see if it exists or not. And even if it didn't, it would give an error if you went ahead and didn't have this if. So it is always for the best to implement it. It doesn't take up that much space. So now let's do map. Actually, can we copy and paste that? Yeah, it is here. So it is the same thing. I'm actually going to paste that everything. Go back and do this. And now, instead of actually, let's take some space and now check if the driver has been found or not. Because of the nature of this listener, because how can I explain it? This add geo query event listener will be always running faster than this inside here. So yeah, in order to avoid getting more than one driver, we must do a driver found and then return if he already has been found. Because the geoquery will be going faster than this listener, that means that a lot more listeners will be going on even after the driver has been found. And that's where Firebase comes short, and you have to think ahead and think of the bigger picture. So this if should take care of it, so a lot more drivers will be found if there exist, and if they are, it will simply end the the listener here, and it won't move forward, and because of that nothing bad will happen. So now, if the driver hasn't been found, we can get the okay, let me just in here give the name of driver map, because we'll need another map in the future. Okay, so if the service is different from actually if the service gets service, and now not null because we know it isn't null, so actually we don't, but because we are doing the equals, we don't need that check. Equals over x, for example, will do give the user the ability to choose in a bit, but for now, just to make it clear for you, say it is over x, then we can grab and paste this code in here, inside there. Let's remove these spaces, we don't need it, and that's it. So actually that's not it, because we have some errors here, and it's because of the key. So the key is outside and we don't have it. So to get the driver found ID, you simply say data snapshot dot get key, and that's it, we have it. So that's all said and done with. So the app will run as it normally does. The only difference is it will check the user database, and if it hasn't found the driver because of what I said previously, it will go on and check if the user service equals to what the current user wants, which I force-fed it over X just to make it clear for you guys and to understand the code. And after that, it is just exactly as we've done before. So now let's implement the over X. The ability for the customer to choose the service that he or she wants. So actually let's open the driver settings activity and just copy and paste that. It will be a lot faster. So driver settings and customer map. Driver settings, and I'm going to grab the radio group from here and paste it in the customer map above the button. Okay, it looks nice. Let's just embed them in a linear layout to give it some color, otherwise it will be transparent and it will be hard to see, so it doesn't look all that good. Vertical and with match parents, and the background Android color white. Okay, so that's done, and now we can go into customer map activity. Exactly, and just we are going to copy and paste that, paste from the driver settings activity. So we need again the radio group, and in the moment of click, which is in here, this else inside the M request set on click listener tells us when the driver clicked something. So let's just grab, where is it? Oops, I'm going farther than I wanted. In here. So this is what tells us the text of the radio button that's clicked at the moment. So let's paste that inside. and let's say request service, and let's make a variable for that, a global variable, request service. Okay, that's it, and all we have to do is paste request service in here, and it should be done, and it should be working. But now let's force the default one. So let's go in here, and we actually didn't. Okay, we'll do it in a second. And now let's actually grab the radio group, place it in here, and now we are going to force a default one, so that the user always has to choose between the three. He must choose one. So check UberX, and that way UberX will be always clicked on, even if the user doesn't want it. Then the user must choose a different one, and that's it. So it should be working by now. Let's just run the app and see if everything checks out. Okay, so it finished loading successfully, and now I'm using two emulators, and I tried to run a third one, but my computer doesn't have enough RAM, so I'm currently with 8 gigs of RAM, and it isn't enough. It was at 100% with the three emulators. So I booted this app on my phone, and it is this one, 1GSK, and you can see it here. So in my phone I have the Uber Black, and in this emulator I have the UberX. So when I click call Uber, I expect for this app to be called upon, even though they are both in the same location. No, even though this is closer to the customer. So let's go ahead and call it, and it worked. And okay, so yeah, and now just to prove to you that it is working, I am going to change it and put UberX on my driver that's on my phone. So I can actually just go ahead and change it here. No need to open up settings on my phone. And now this one should be called upon because I believe it is close. Yes, it is. So let's go, and exactly, it went to my phone. So everything is working just fine. I don't know how it will work with a lot of drivers, but I don't have any ability to test it now, but the logic makes sense, and so it should work. If you have any suggestions for a better implementation of the code, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll be sure to take a look at it. And if I think it is better, then I'll make a video explaining your point of view with no problem, because everything wins in that case. So yeah, that's all for today. We are starting to get to the end of this project. We'll start doing the extras that you guys are asking in the end. But for now, the main source of the code is getting completed. So yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section. I try to respond to you within 24 hours every time, and I respond to every single one of you. Only if it escapes my eye is when I don't see it. So yeah, please do leave a like, subscribe, donate if you can. I have my PayPal link down in the comment section. Some of you have donated, and I'll make in the next video or in the end of the month, I'll make a separate part on the video to say thank you to you guys, because it truly helps me, whether it is through PayPal or Patreon. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.